Hey, what's going on? It's a quiet Saturday night out there. Everyone's stuck at New York doing some con stuff. But here we are talking about modern comic books. I'm Seawood, and with me is my Modern Men co-host, Comic Man Andy. How you doing tonight, Andy?
Doing great, man. Going pinkies out, having a little drink, ready to talk some comics.
Awesome. Like I said, it's a quiet night. We'll see what happens here on this unscheduled feed. I just woke up today and I was like, I want to talk about comic books. I don't even care if they're worth anything or anything like that. I just know my man Andy wants to talk comics all the time. So I'm like, let's do some Modern Men tonight. He said, okay, so here we are. A quick shout out to Scott Evans in the chat. What is going on, man? Thank you for joining us tonight. So Andy, I guess we should describe how this show typically works before we get showing the book. So basically, here on Modern Men, all we do is talk about the modern stories we like. Usually the modern era is about 1992-ish on up, kind of when that Jim Lee X-Men #1 came out. So, I mean, there's really kind of no holds barred here, really. Just whoever wants to hop on, talk about some stories that sometimes you don't normally hear about in the community. Yeah, but sometimes I'll probably look at the one on my top stack here. It's something everyone talks about all the time, but I want to talk about it again. So my hope with Modern Men, if you guys watch this, is that somebody out there's watching, sees a book they like or a story, and actually goes out and reads it and enjoys it. So, Andy, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I mean, everybody's been talking about X-Men a lot. It's on everybody's radar. It's an amazing story, great artwork. And we've all been talking about it quite a bit. So I want to bring up something really quick that is similar yet different. And what I've really been digging is Category Zero. It's almost like a modern take on if people became mutants and how the government and the country and the world would handle that. And it's really interesting take on that. The artwork's really good. The story is I think we're on issue 4 or 5. Scout even did an incentive that was pretty sweet. I don't know. It's in depth without being something that you got to reread 3 or 4 times to understand, and yet it's not without substance. And yet it's kind of playing off what's going on right now with a lot of X-Men stuff. So it's pretty cool to see like a contrasting story with different characters, different relationships, different artwork. There we go. I'm terrible at this.
No worries, man. You're great. You're doing good. Who'd you say publishes this book? Scout Comics?
Oh, yeah. This is Scout Comics.
Nice. Yeah, my shop doesn't get those, unfortunately, so I haven't heard of that. I'll definitely have to look that up, see if it's in a trade.
Yeah, and if it's, you know what, go right to the Scout Comics website. They sell direct.
Nice.
And they pack amazingly well, too.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'll definitely have to see if I can find a copy of that and check that out. That pitch sounded really good. So I guess my first one for tonight, I always got kicked these off with Superman, I guess, two times in a row. But the first book I had featured, I actually pulled it up on the DC app because it was buried in the boxes back there. This is Superman. I guess it's the 650. It's the start of 1 year later, and it's the Up, and Away storyline. So basically, the story behind this takes place 1 year later after Infinite Crisis. So if you guys, I think I even had to spiel last time on Modern Men, basically Infinite Crisis. The way they did the post-Infinite Crisis DC universe is every title skipped 1 year later. That way they had fresh creative teams, fresh storylines. And meanwhile, they ran 52 weeks, which is written by, Grant Morrison, Jeff Johns, Mark Waid, and Greg Rucka. And they picked some B and C list characters. They took those characters out of the 1 year later books, so you wouldn't know their fate in 52. But nonetheless, the 1 year later Superman storyline, this was written by Kurt Busiek and Jeff Johns, Pete Woods on the art, and Terry and Rachel Dotson on these beautiful covers. But I've rambled on long enough about what the book is and what the era is. Basically, the story is Superman was depowered at the end of Infinite Crisis. He had to fight Superboy Prime in the area where Krypton exploded. So basically, it was him, Earth 2 Superman, were on Mogo, which is the Green Lantern sentient planet. And Mogo took them to where Krypton's remnants were. That way, all three of them were depowered so they could actually fight toe-to-toe with Superboy Prime. And unfortunately, Earth 2 Superman dies. Superboy Prime gets apprehended, and Superman is powerless after that. So this 1 year later, he is Clark Kent, basically. He is not Superman anymore. He's just Clark Kent. So he just does his job at the Daily Planet, and he kind of just faces these challenges of having to rely on other superheroes to do the superheroing. He's spending a lot of time with Lois, and he's just enjoying being Clark Kent. So unfortunately, you got the combo of, I believe it's Toyman and Lex Luthor, just causing chaos, of course. So when Lex Luthor comes into play, Clark/Superman, he's got to do something about it. But unfortunately, the best thing he can do is be a reporter. There's even a cool part in this where Green Lantern shows up, Hal Jordan, and he offers him up a Green Lantern ring. But that's where he kind of comes into question. He's just like, I'm really enjoying living as a human. I'm really enjoying being Clark Kent. Do I really want to do this again? And unfortunately, some of his reporting gets him in some hot water with, some of the gangsters in Metropolis, and he gets thrown on a train track, and the train hits him, and guess what? His powers reactivated right then and there. So then it's on. He gets to fight Toyman and Lex, and it's just a good story about the character of Clark Kent and Superman. It really brings into question, why does he want to be Superman? He really has to look himself in the mirror and ask him that. And I think it's one of my more underrated stories I can recommend tonight.
Nice. That's why I'm here, man. I got to take notes. I got to read a lot of this stuff. You guys have an amazing depth of knowledge when it comes to DC. That's great stuff.
And I'll be honest, most of that knowledge, I forgot more than I've ever read, unfortunately, but it just comes to reading what you like, honestly. That's what I memorize the most anymore. Like, I was just thinking, like, my current pulls, my most memorable reads for me are, like, Buffy and Ninja Turtles, because those are my favorite characters. And then I'll read a book like Die, and I'm like, Aaron, everyone says Die is awesome, and I think the art's great, but I just find myself kind of forgetting month to month what is going on in that book. So sometimes, for me, some of these, especially independent reads, I need to sit down and just binge read all at once, rather than monthly. Or some of these characters, I just, like Superman and the Ninja Turtles, I can read and memorize for the rest of my life. It's kind of weird how that works.
Right. Well, how about all the knowledge coming from this chat we got over here?
Oh, yeah. Let's look at that chat.
Lots of great questions going on. Lots of people popping in.
Yeah, we got Perry Comics popped in there. What is going on? I always like seeing Perry Comics. He's a good guy. He's always lurking with that blue blazer on in the chat. Let's see. We got Chris Barrett. Man, I'm glad we could put on a show for Chris Barrett. And I think he was worried it was the weekend. We wouldn't have any Comic Core content. He's like, yeah, it's a Saturday and they're here. All right. He says, if I became a mutant, I want a mix of Iceman's powers and Banshee's voice. Yeah, that'd probably be a lot of snow right there. He says, ever notice how Frozone from The Incredibles is a parody of Iceman? Says Chris Barrett. We got Scott Evans still in the chat. What is going on, man? We got Darth Bane in the chat. How you doing, Darth Bane? Happy to see you in the chat tonight. Here's another regular in the chat, I like to see. We got Ricky Markstat. What is going on, man? He says, the ability that I would want is the ability to mimic everyone's powers and the abilities and skills. Oh, look at this. He's not gone too soon tonight. We got Midwest Comic Man Paul. How you doing, Paul? One of the best pressers in the community. If you guys need books pressed, definitely hit up Midwest Comic Man Paul. One of the best out there in the community. And we got DS Comics, definitely one of the best Golden Age collectors. You can catch him on Golden Guys every Tuesday. But dang, there's a lot of knowledge right there between Midwest and DS. Those guys know their stuff.
Yeah, where's Legend? Have Legend pop in here, and then you got a nice trifecta going.
Everyone's been pretty quiet in that chat today. I'm sure they're actually spending their Saturday outside, maybe. Who knows? I hear people do that from time to time.
Right?
Hey, you got another story, Andy? Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. So we're talking about some news happening. I believe it was at New York. Not positive. I remember seeing some photos come out of a slideshow going on, and it talked about Gideon Falls has already been optioned, but they added a producer, a director. You guys got to help me out with this. Help me out in the chat over here. I'm not quite sure who a lot of the players are and who's doing what with Gideon Falls, but I do know one thing. with a story this amazing, there's no way it's not going to be an amazing story or amazing show. This comic leaves me on a cliffhanger every time, wanting more and not wanting the story to end. What I really like as a collector, and covers draw you to a comic book, the story keeps you there. The covers really kind of help tell part of the story, where it's almost kind of like a treasure hunt for trash with somebody who might not be completely home upstairs. And another individual in the story is a priest, and they kind of make you feel like they're coinciding in the world separated, and their paths begin to cross in a hellishly crazy amount of evil. And as the story goes, the covers just kind of get a little bit darker and a little bit more ominous. And this is my favorite. This is my favorite cover.
Yeah, it's nice. Of
the Laughing Man. And then it just kind of gets. Then it kind of gets like creepy. Just
yeah,
like
I still need to read that series. I've heard nothing but great things about Gideon Falls.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but horror is hot right now with comic books in general. Horror is hot with TV, comic books. They are primed for an amazing show with the story, and it's just going to get better. And that news, it's funny because I actually picked Gideon Falls as my cold pick for Brian's show, Hot Cold Show on the Simpleman's Comic Channel that last week. I recorded it on Monday, and I think news leaked Tuesday afternoon after I had already edited and sent my video in.
Nice.
So the show aired Wednesday night, and everybody in the chat's like, hey, this isn't cold. We got news that this is spiking and getting some heat. And I'm like, oh, I look like a fool. You could get 9.8s of cover A of number 1 for under like $80 at one point, and the sales were kind of steadily 85, 87, I think. And now I think they're at 100 to 120 now.
Wow. I didn't realize this was getting that hot already.
Yeah, the cover to have is I don't have it. It's the Comics Pro cover, Comics Pro edition or Comics Pro cover. And I think that one's last sale on that was $350-ish to $380, and I think it's regularly for sale for $400 on eBay. And it's probably because the print runs like super crazy low on it.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it because I think I have a copy of it. Because it's Jeff Lemire, I just had it. I've at least actually. Did I get 2 copies of that? I might have got. Oh, I'll have to see at some point. But.
Jeff Lemire is the reason why I started bridging into DC, and then when I found you guys searching for DC stuff online, his storytelling is just amazing. And Black Hammer, I picked up Black Hammer because of Gideon Falls, and then started reading those trades, and now it got to one point where there was a little bit of a wait, and I haven't picked it back up yet.
Yeah, I didn't. Take it off the wall there, but I do have Animal Man number 1 from the Jeff Lemire run. I don't know if you've read that one yet. That one I think would be right up your alley. It's a phenomenal read. It was at the start of New 52, and it also eventually ties in with the Scott Snyder Swamp Thing, which is another great read right there. So that'll probably be episode 3, the Modern Men, since they're up there and over there still. But I do want to go ahead.
I always keep a pen and paper handy for notes for all that.
Nice. I do want to give a quick shout out to Shauna Lindsay of Chuckload of Comics in the chat. She says, hey, guys, can't wait to see you in Baltimore. Same here. We got to hang out with Shauna and Chuck for a lot of C2E2. They're extremely busy, of course, though, but they killed it on their booth and booth setup, and they've been touring a lot of cons and doing some great work lately. So can't wait to see those two in a couple weeks at Baltimore. Absolutely. And she says Black Mirror is amazing and Jeff Lemire is the bomb. So we also got Darth Bane says Ricky, the cover or the comic or the inside of the comic, and they're talking about the New Mutants number 1. I haven't read like the newest New Mutants yet. I just read the the Claremont. I can't remember the artist offhand. Bob McLeod, I think, is the artist on the original run. And then Chris Barrett says, I really won't binge into DC no matter how much they preach about DC. Our number 1 viewer won't binge DC. That cracks me up.
Have Chris on for a show for counterpoints and stuff like that. Kind of like Drew's like a big Marvel guy, and I'm really big into Marvel and Independence. It's kind of like counterpoints.
Old Drew, yeah, he's definitely one of the best Marvel guys out there. Well, my second book's kind of like the chip shot field goal, basically. I figured with you here, we got to show some Brian K. love on once every modern man, I feel like. So I just brought Why the Last Man #1 because why not? I mean, I still think post 2000 that this is the best read, period. Like Saga's catching up, but I need to see how Saga ends before I declare that better. I think it's a better start, and it was more binge read for me. But hey, we're arguing like oranges and oranges, basically. The same artist, obviously, completely different type of story. But I guess nonetheless, if you've been living under a rock and haven't heard of Why the Last Man, this issue in particular is definitely worth a read on its own. Where it picks up, you got York Brown and a bunch of other point of views. York's kind of in his apartment with his monkey Ampersand throwing poop everywhere. And he's just on the phone with his girlfriend from Australia. Meanwhile, there's like these other arcing storylines, I believe in Afghanistan with Agent 355, and several other ones, of course. Actually, the other one that really sticks out to me is the ambulance driver lady and her male paramedic friend. And all of a sudden, male virus hits, all the men just drop dead, except for York Brown, and that's where our story kicks off. And you kind of get to see all the reactions from the women, and then kind of York's stuck in his apartment. The only thing he's concerned about is trying to get his girlfriend back on the phone. He doesn't have a clue what's going on until he steps outside. Unfortunately, I think it's in the safe word storyline. You don't really find out about him. Like, he stayed in his apartment for several weeks and then went outside his apartment and saw this woman had gave birth to a dead male baby. And it's probably like one of the worst visuals in the whole book, but it has a lot of semblance at that time in that story. But nonetheless, definitely at least pick up the first issue. And I will say issue 60 is one of the best payoffs and finales to a series I've ever seen. It's almost worth it to get from issue 1 to get to issue 60. It's that good, in my opinion.
Now, is issue 1 the serious key that's expensive and everything else is pretty straightforward?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I would say so. This is probably, I don't track value too often, but this is probably $100, $200. I don't know. It's definitely a 3-figure book, but anything else I've seen in $1 and $2 bins. So I honestly, I got this. I recommend just getting a run off eBay if you really just need a first print issue 1 in your life. You can still get runs for fairly decent prices because really only people care about the first issue right now. Everything else is like dollar books are usually just added into the bundles. So yeah, and of course it's available trades. I have all the hardcovers over there. Got them signed by Pia Guerra, the artist. So yeah, if you haven't read, especially you, Andy, if you haven't read Why the Last Man, read it. Just write up your notes and write why on they're really big.
That's on my radar for Baltimore, and the reason why I've been held up getting that is priorities. And I start saving up money and saving up. I started planning for Baltimore about 10 months ago. A little bit here, a little bit there, and I think I might be able to do it this time.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I'm a completionist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll delay reading an entire story for years until I can fit an expensive #1 or #2 or #3 into my budget, and then I'll binge the whole thing. Or because what we did with Saga was we bought all the trade paperbacks, and then I sat there. I was like, I spent X number of dollars on the trade paperbacks, and I should have just gone right to getting the #1 book, and then did the same thing. Go on eBay, got a run of 2 to whatever for whatever it was going for, and done that. And so now it's like, Why the Last Man? I think it's time to get on that bandwagon for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of love coming from the chat about Why the Last Man. Shauna points out Paper Girls as well. Yep. I have that hardcover ready to go over there, actually. I finally got it. So I definitely plan on reading Paper Girls, another Brian K. Vaughan property that has been a hit. So definitely look forward to that. Chris Barrett loves him some Ampersand the Monkey. Once you read that first issue, I think you will too. William Bird says he's reading through Why Now. Very good so far. And then Comics Club says, Why the Last Man has been one of our best-selling trade paperbacks of all time. Yeah, I'd imagine it is. I just know, talking to my local shop owner, like his top shelf is just Brian K. Vaughan. We talked about it last time. that Saga first trade paperback has been his top selling trade paperback, I think, for 3 years now in a row.
I think Why the Last Man and Saga are right up there.
Yeah. So that's for sure. Like, I mean, if you're getting someone into comics, just introduce them to Brian K. Vaughan, it seems like. So
yeah, is he going to be doing? Is he going to be on the Artist Alley up there doing sketches and stuff, or is he going to be just?
He's a writer, so he probably won't be doing too much sketches and stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if they're having like a special signing area for him because I don't think he makes tons of appearances outside of like your New Yorks and stuff. It sounds like there's like you can pay to meet him, or you can just wait in this long ass line. So I'm guessing he's probably going to be in some sort of autographing alley typically. Oh, William Bird also points out Ex Machina was really good too. Yeah, I read a decent amount of Ex Machina. That's a good Brian K. Vaughan read as well. And then Comics Club says, Why the Last Man is available in hardcover. Yep, I got all 5 hardcovers over there. And if you really want to go big on the non-single issue format, you can get the absolute editions. If you want to really feel like spending some money but not having the actual issues. Some of the absolute editions are pretty sweet.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Fiona Staples is not going to be there, right?
I don't believe so. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw her name on that list.
Oh, well, it'd be nice. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to grab a book and have just Brian sign it without Fiona there, too. But, we'll see, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you may as well. If you're not getting that first printing gold labeled.
Ooh, that would be pretty sweet.
That would be.
Gold pen on that white cover, gold label, CGC. Yeah, you guys ready for another one?
Heck yeah.
Speaking of news and whatnot, in a comic book that has actually already been optioned in the past, but I think got another person attached to it for production maybe, was Bitterroot. So this was quite a different take on it's like 1930s Harlem with some magic and monster hunting. That was actually really fun to pick up and read. And I know there's an homage to Akira. I think the number one, they did an homage of that. It's like I don't know if it was an eBay exclusive. No. Somebody in the chat can help me out with that. That was the book to have. And I think the number one cover A is selling for roughly around $15 now. And that's pretty nice. I'm going to dig into this and reread it. And I think I might just find somebody else that wants to read it or hasn't read it yet, and just let it go for a cover price and share the love,
Yeah, sometimes that's just the way to do it, man. Especially if you're collecting full runs of stuff and just need to unload some space.
Yeah, and I
sell some. Oh wow! Yeah,
I like how all the covers depicted a character out of the story. So, like each major character got a nice little cover going from number 2 to number 3 to number 4.
I thought those were the same cover at first, but yeah, I can see they're all the different characters now. It's awesome.
That was kind of fun. They could showcase the different characters as they went on.
All right, awesome. That's one. I don't think I got the first issue of that, so I might have to check that out in a trade. Because I've heard nothing but good things about Bitterroot as well, so I'll definitely have to look for that. So my next one, I actually just picked out the second hardcover of Daredevil from Mark Waid. But the particular reason I picked out this hardcover, it has a really good issue. And oh, by the way, I got this signed by Mark Waid because I got to have about everything signed. There is an issue of Daredevil. It's Daredevil issue 7 of this run. It's just like a good single issue story. Where basically what happens, and there's the cover there. That's what I was looking for. The cover of issue 7 looks like this here. So he's playing in the snow. So basically the story of issue 7 was he is out on a school bus, and he's chaperoning the school bus of kids, basically. And unfortunately what happens is the bus driver sees a deer in the middle of the road, swerves to miss it, and there's a big bus crash. So based on the snow you saw on the cover, it's during this huge snowstorm in New York. So Daredevil wakes up and he has to protect and guide these children to salvation, basically. But unfortunately, he can't because he hit his head in the snowstorm and the crash. he has a concussion, and on top of that, it's snowing and sleeting. So Daredevil's powers, unfortunately, they don't work well in snow and sleet. He can't see 2 feet in front of him, basically. So he's basically, and his identity's semi-public at this point. Basically, he's even wearing a shirt that says "I'm not Daredevil" in his office, but everyone knows he's Daredevil. So he even dresses up as Daredevil to kind of influence these children to follow him and everything. But unfortunately, the children almost having to guide him through the snow, because you got to remember, Daredevil's blind. He can't see anything. The snow is inhibiting his powers. So the kids are more or less guiding him through the snow, and he's just keeping them motivated at that point. There's a part where his concussion catches up to him. He passes out, and the kids are actually smart enough to like make a stretcher and drag him to salvation. So at the end, it's just kind of like a cool story. Like, you know, some of the best hero stories don't necessarily involve them being heroes. And it's just cool to, you know, see Daredevil have to be with these children, and they have to work together to save each other.
Nice.
So, and that's just one issue of this whole run too. There's a lot of good stuff in that Mark Waid run.
Oh wow, I'm finally dipping back into Daredevil. I got the first 12 books of the current run going, sitting behind me, that I got to get on to read, and I've been piling them up and just trying to make time.
Yeah, I could almost do a whole show on Daredevil. I'm playing because I got so many things I just want to read and reread. One of my reread plans is I would like to read from the Kevin Smith Daredevil point, which is Daredevil 1, I think from 98, something like that. It was him and Joe Quesada was the artist on it. They were buddies from making, Kevin Smith movies and that stuff. So they decided that's when Kevin Smith got brought into Marvel the first time. And he had a pretty solid run where unfortunately they kill off Karen Page in it. It's a pretty good Bullseye versus Daredevil story at the end of all of it. And the art is just phenomenal on it. But then it goes from Kevin Smith to David Mack, who does the pencils and the writing on it. And then you get the Bendis run, which is amazing too. And then after that, you get Ed Brubaker. And then there's a stupid story called Shadowland that only Chad likes. You can skip that. And then you get the Mark Waid run, and then the Charles Soule run. So it's just like this whole like almost 2 decades worth of just phenomenal writing on one title.
And iconic covers too, with Punisher and Bullseye and Elektra, and just didn't Frank Miller do a really good run of covers in there too?
Frank Miller did a ton of like he's the guy who made Daredevil popular in the 80s. Like, if I always tell people there's one Daredevil story you're gonna read in your life, it may as well be Daredevil Born Again. From Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli. That was probably my favorite Marvel story ever. I highly recommend that above any other Daredevil. But like I said, from the point Kevin Smith started Daredevil to about, I'm sure it's still good now. I've heard decent things about the Chip Zdarsky stuff. I haven't had a chance to really read and get my own thoughts on that. But it's just, I can't think of a character that's had such a good streak of writing on their title for the better part of 2 decades.
And when you search out some of those books, they're very reasonably priced.
Oh, absolutely. You can find even the Born Again storyline a lot. I found most of mine for $1 or $2. And I think one of them was like the first appearance of Nuke. And that got a little bit of fire when he was on the Jessica Jones Netflix series. But I mean, you could pretty much, most of it's like the only unattainable ones probably. And honestly, you can't even really say unattainable, are probably like the first Elektra. And that's all I can really think of. Even the Death of Elektra, I got for a really decent price, probably like less than $10.
And you pick out the keys and start searching for those out of that whole run of 20 years, and look for CGC 9.8s. They're available, and they're
yeah.
I don't want to use the term cheap, because cheap's very relative depending on people's budget, but they're a lot cheaper than what's happening with like X-Men keys and a lot of other stuff in that same time period.
It's going through the chat here. They're throwing their opinions in, which is awesome. I definitely want to hear some good reads and some opinions on the reads we're talking about. Chris Barrett says Marvel's Project is a great mini. And Ricky Markstadt says, I read Spider-Verse 1 comic. The comic is nice. Both artwork on the cover and the inside of the cover was cool. Actually, it's kind of funny you mentioned Spider-Verse, because I have a previous version we may be talking about here in a few. Chris Barrett says, it's only snowing in Hell's Kitchen. Oh, luckily they're outside of Hell's Kitchen for this issue, Chris. And then William Bird says, I think it's Daredevil 196, first meeting with Wolverine, one of the favorite issues of anything. Oh, yeah, I think I read that one. That one's really good. Yeah, and then Chris Brett clarifies Kevin Smith, Joe Quesada, and Jimmy Palmiotti. Yeah, I forgot Palmiotti on the Inks he made that run as well. I should have mentioned him. Chris Barrett says once again, Brew Baker is great on everything he writes. He's kind of not wrong. I can't remember reading any Brew Baker I didn't like, to be honest. Mark Stat says, did you read Harleen Book 1 yet? That is on top of my read pile downstairs as we speak, along with White Knight 3 and actually I think the other book's in front of me here. Die Number 8. Those are like the 3 books I haven't got to for my pulls the last few weeks. Also, if you haven't read Born Again, you've never read Daredevil. So that's Chris Barrett's opinion. I definitely don't disagree. I mean, Born Again, like I said, I think it's the best. And then Ricky Markstadt has watched the Ben Affleck Daredevil. I apologize for that. With that being said, Andy, what's your next book?
I'm not sure how many people have picked this up or read it. It seems to get some heat, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it right now. And the next one I've been keying in on is Something is Killing the Children. Kind of picking up a little bit of horror and suspense from a different angle. Boom Studios is killing it with a lot of, just getting out there and getting these books out to shops and out to people. And just trying different things and different artwork styles, and it's really fun to see. I do know that this cover was the cover to get when it first came out. The Jenny Friesen Final Order Cutoff. Yeah, hey, there you go.
Yep, this is the one that my shop actually had in stock.
So when I saw that, I don't remember where I saw this, but it was probably 5 or 6 days or a handful of days before it came out in the shop. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for that while I'm out. And I found it. And when I did find it, another friend sent me a link, and he's like, well, if you're really interested in that cover and you like it, then you have to get the foil version that my local shop is doing. And he's over, my friend's over in Detroit. Scott, actually, Scott Evans, if you're still in the chat, his local shop in Detroit, this is going to be so tough to show. Sanitarium, I'm going to butcher the name. There he is. Scott, what was the name of that shop that did this? This is like a 300, print run was about 300. I know they lost somewhere around 30 or 40 to damages. And people were pre-selling this on eBay for almost $200. Well, no, wow. Sorry. There was a set of a black and white one and this one that was pre-selling for around $200. I think this is a $100 to $120 book on eBay right now.
Yeah, and I think they're only the one issue in, aren't they? I don't think issue 2's came out yet, right?
I think issue 2, it might be next week.
It probably would be, yeah.
But it starts out pretty fun. The idea that there's a new supernatural kind of being or creature that's out there that's killing children and they can't figure out why. And now there's this mysterious character that shows up to hunt that creature. And what do they mean hunt? There's a lot of blood. There's some pretty subtle adult rated content kind of that's makes you chuckle a little bit. But it was pretty good. I'm really looking forward to picking up the next issue, and I'm looking forward to really reading that full story arc and seeing where they take it.
Yeah, as I said, I thought for one issue in, it was a pretty solid opening read. I think James Tynion continues to be one of the more underrated guys in terms of, writers people talk about. I mean, this guy's worked on Batman, Detective Comics, a lot of good stuff. And I think, when the Rebirth stuff hit, I think he had the stronger Batman book, honestly. And I think his talent really shines through in a lot of his Boom product. So this reminded me, it had a little Stephen King's It feel to me, with whatever something is. We really don't know what the killer monster is yet because we're one issue in, but it reminded me kind of a little bit of the monster version of Pennywise. And just kind of the kids at the school and stuff reminded me, maybe they'll go through some of the same things the kids did in Stephen King's It. Obviously, this character here is quite a bit different than anything from that. But one of my favorite things in this book were the way the adults were reacting to this whole situation. Like one of the main kid characters gets pulled into the principal's office right off the bat. And the principal is even like, he is just in a mental mess because of everything he's having to deal with. Like all of his, students in his school, they're getting picked off by this monster. and even he's swearing at the kid, "What are we gonna do?" Basically. So
Yeah, it's not just one or two kids. It's like they're killing a ton
I
of
think
kids.
they're up to like 9 by the time the issue starts, if I remember right. But yeah, I think this has been a pretty good first issue. I might wait for a trade or a hardcover. But yeah, I really enjoyed that first read, I gotta say.
Yeah, Scott's over there. It's Sanctum Sanctorum in Livonia, Michigan.
Okay.
They did a really killer job putting that cover together. I really enjoyed it.
Scott Evans also says murder, death, kill. I like me some Demolition Man. All right. So I believe someone mentioned Spider-Verse earlier. So I decided why not just go ahead and talk about all of the first volume of Spider-Verse. When this came out, Dan Slott, I think he was at the kind of the tail end of his, long Spider-Man run. And this kicked off right before the big Secret Wars crossover in the Marvel Universe, which was supposed to change everything or whatever. In my opinion, didn't really change much after the fact. But nonetheless, I love me some Crisis on Infinite Earths on the DC side. I feel like Dan Slott read that when he was younger too, and like that was an awesome story. I'd love to do something like that in the Marvel universe where you have multiple universes with multiple versions of the same character, yet there are subtle differences and everything and all that good stuff. And I feel like this was basically him writing Crisis on Infinite Spiders. I'm not so much a fan of the bad guys in this book. I just like seeing them having to hop multiple universes to try to save each other and that stuff. Of course, in this run, you get the introduction of Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Noir. Miles Morales really gets, a lot of screen time or panel time with the other spiders. Spider-Man 2099 kind of gets brought back to relevance. You get Superior Spider-Man gets plucked out of his existence and thrown into this thing. Like, he throws everything at the wall in this book. He said when he originally plotted this that he was going to get every Spider-Man ever, including, he even has one with the Spider-Man and his amazing friends. They're in one panel and they get killed off in the next panel. It's pretty funny. That kind of tells what he thought of that cartoon back in the day. But nonetheless, it's just a fun read. Like, I don't know how else to put it really, but I mean, if you like Spider-Man, you really owe it to yourself to read this. At the end of the day, I mean, I'm trying to read the comments here. Chris Barrett says the Spider-Verse event never changed anything. So, I mean, at least for me, I think this really changed the status quo of Spider-Man books today, because now you have the Miles Spider-Man book. You get Spider-Gwen in there. I think they're doing things on and off of 2099, and of course 20 Peter Parker books. We got Spider-Man video game now. So I think definitely once he did this, that really changed the course of the way they do Spider-Man and Marvel now.
I need to find a way to make more time in the day because there's so much great content out there to absorb. I mean, I could spend a week out here reading comics and not stop.
Yeah, Chris Barrett says, I'm still waiting for them to retcon the whole 90s clone saga out of existence, saying, no, they haven't brought in Kane, who was like a clone of the Scarlet Spider or whatever, and she was the Scarlet Spider in Spider-Verse, if I remember right. Not to mention, like, all the Venom stuff. I think they overblew it with the Venomverse stuff, but that's just me.
Oh, boy.
What you got next, Andy?
I'm out of books, but this comment's pretty interesting from Ricky. Could Iron Man that got killed in Endgame be a Skrull? I thought that a Skrull playing a character when they died or were heavily injured, they couldn't maintain
they usually
the
just
image.
Like a Skrull when they die.
So, I mean, no. Really interesting concept or thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's a way in or out. I mean, that's what's crazy. They actually, pull the trigger and introduce Skrulls for the MCU. Is like now anything's kind of possible. I mean, I don't know who all watched Far From Home, but that post credits just like, really, did we need that? But I guess what are the implications of that post credit scene with the Skrull involvement? On like how long has particular characters in that post credit scene been Skrulls? So I guess I can just keep going through my little pile here. I do have one independent. This one's from Top Cow Comics. It's called Port of Earth. This one was actually brought to my attention by a Poor Man's Comics awesome reader in the community. He has some good books himself. Basically, the premise on this one is aliens kind of show up to Earth, but they're not there to take over or anything. They're just kind of there to gas their ship, basically. So they kind of, the aliens are more like businessmen and oil tycoons. So when they arrive on Earth, they're more interested in Earth as a commodity than trying to, seize Earth for all it's worth. So, the people in charge of Earth and the aliens kind of make a deal to make this big port where aliens can park, fuel their ship, and move on to the next. And the people in charge of making these ports would give Earth, their resources to make Earth better. So you kind of have thus the port of Earth. So there's this FBI type team or SWAT type team that is charged with protecting the port of Earth and kind of keeping the peace. So, unfortunately, violent incidents happen, and they kind of need to truly figure out if it's the aliens trying to cause a ruckus on Earth or if it's some of the crazy Earthlings trying to run the aliens off of Earth. So it's a pretty compelling read. Don't hear too much about it, so definitely recommend this one as well. This one was gifted to me by a poor man's comic, so definitely thank him for that.
I really want to read that, and every time I pass by that, when it does come out and it does hit the shelf, and I look at it and it's like number 8, number 9, whatever they're on, I look at it and I'm like, I kind of sigh and I'm like, I wish I would have grabbed that at number 1, because like I said, being kind of a completionist collector, if I don't start it at number 1, I gotta wait and fit 12 issues in somewhere else time-wise. And like a lot of people will go to the trade paperbacks, I prefer to go to the single issues first and then buy the trade paperbacks to reread, or if the single issues start getting really expensive, I'll squirrel them away and then just read the trade paperback. But I'm really looking forward to picking that one up too. Actually, I just added it to my list again, so I'm sure I have another list somewhere that I've lost.
And most of these I've seen in 50-cent and dollar bins too. So it's an easy read to find. Well, it's easy to find for cheap. Whether you can find them all, that's a different question, obviously, because you know how dollar bins and quarter bins go. You'll find 2, 5, and 7, but the issues you need won't be there as usual, unfortunately.
That's so true. That's so true. But look at this chat, man.
Yeah, there's people are popping up with the love of Port of Earth. We had Longbox Diving. What's going on, man? He likes him some Port of Earth. Ricky says he can't wait for the Infinite Crisis crossover. Man, that Crisis crossover on the CW, man, that might be one of the things I'm most looking forward to on television right now. I think it's going to be great. And also, I've been binge watching Doom Patrol on the DC Universe app, and I love Swamp Thing. I've really been enjoying Titans, but Doom Patrol may be their best show. Maybe it's just because I haven't binge watched the other ones, because I watched them once a week, one at a time, and I was just like, I'm on vacation, I may as well have a show to watch. So I just turned on the first episode of Doom Patrol, I think yesterday. Now I'm on episode 6 or 7. So it's been really good, I have to say. It'd be cool if Robot Man was in the background of the Crisis crossover somehow. Let's see what else they're saying. Terry Starfry, what's going on, man? He says Downey needs island money, so he must be talking about trying to get Robert Downey back in the MCU. I'm sure it'd take a truckload, or at least a whole bin full of money dumped in his front lawn to get him to come back at this point. He had a good end. See, the way I think is it's if a character or a storyline has a really good ending, don't tamper with the really good ending. I think Tony Stark in Endgame had a great ending to that character. I'm good with that. He's good on appearance. He's made enough appearances. I can't think of a character or an actor who has made more appearances as a character in big time movies than Tony Stark as Iron Man.
Yeah, what's his face with Wolverine's probably a close second.
I don't know. I think Tony. I think he may have been passed. I mean, just considering he was in multiple movies a year, so Jackman probably would be the second place. Probably.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman would probably be a second. Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this. This is really cool that everybody in the chat's bringing this up, because I brought up one more book, and this is really cool because during that movie, this book spiked because of the cover. So some people might be knowing what I'm grabbing here. But in my heart, my feeling is that if they leave that alone, he doesn't mysteriously come back, this cover is going to be an iconic cover for people and kids that have grown up with that movie. And Avengers number 12. And you know, a lot of people were like, it's gonna fall flat. The story isn't that great, but what do we do in life? We eat with our eyes. We take in content with our eyes. We're drawn to things with our eyes. And the first thing you see on this cover or this comic is this cover. And this is going to be an iconic cover for somebody that's growing up with this movie that's 10, 8, 9, 10 years old. And 20 years from now or 10 years from now, and that person's got, or not really 10, but I mean, as they grow older and they have disposable income, they're going to start seeking these out. And surprisingly, these are actually still holding a decent price. I want to say $30-ish, $40-ish dollars. I don't see a lot of them selling, but I also don't see a lot of them getting posted on eBay. My hand's floating around. But I love the cover. A lot of people, you love it. Some people love it. Some people hate it. But when I watched that movie and sat through that, in my opinion, that was probably the greatest movie experience I've ever had, the IMAX 3D. And then I knew I had to have a copy of this just because it's just that cover. And then people growing up, they're going to have that. I don't know. There's a lot of naysayers out there that say that this won't hold value, but so far it's still holding value. And it's not a $4 book. It's not a $5 book. It's still, you know, if I see copies of this at Baltimore for an affordable price that are in really good near mint condition, I'm going to buy some because the census numbers on CGC are actually pretty low for this book.
Yeah, nice. I got lucky with mine. I think it was about, I don't even know where it's at this second, but about 6 weeks ago, I did find it in a dollar bin. So they're still out there.
Nice. I think I paid. What's that?
I have to say, especially like that run, I think that was the Romita Jr. run. It's still fairly recent. So a lot of them just went from shelves to readers' hands into the dollar bins. So a lot of those are still out there. I mean, once that movie came out, a lot of people started plucking them out of the bins. But if you look hard enough, you may be able to find one still for cheap.
And a lot of people said that the story wasn't super great, and so I didn't get the full run, so I didn't read the full story. But I found this at Detroit Comic Con earlier this year for I think $15, and it's a serious 9.4 to a 9.6 without a press or a cleaning or anything like that. So it's not too shabby. I'm definitely holding on to that, and it's a cover. That's a cover I could hang up behind me and enjoy it every time I see it, all the time.
That's a great artist, and like you said, I think, especially out of that run, that's definitely the most popular cover in that Avengers run. I can guarantee you that. So I guess my next read, I got to go to my boy, Connor Kent, Superboy. This is from the Adventure Comics run that was released once again. I think it's post. Actually, this one is post Final Crisis. In Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds. So in Infinite Crisis, Superboy gets killed off. He's dead. He's gone. But in Final Crisis, they had a spinoff called Legion of Three Worlds, where basically to combat Superboy Prime, Superman and Legion come up with one plan. It's like just about almost like a plan that would annoy Prime the most, and that's somehow bring back Superboy. So they use the same technology they used to bring back Superman, but unfortunately because of his Lex Luthor human DNA, that to plant his body in the present, but then they go and find him in the 30th century, and that's when he recovers. So this is when he gets back from the 30th century, and it's just a good old tale of like he's finally coming to grips with the fact that he's Lex Luthor's clone. So unfortunately, he has to fight Lex Luthor once again. But for me, what really shines in this book is the Francis Manapul art. It just seems like a lot of art anymore. You just see that digitized look come through with the digital colors and stuff. And Manapul's art, I just think the art and the colors just pop off the page so much better for some reason. It just looks more organic to me. But I really like the chemistry between Superboy, Red Robin, and even Crypto, which I got this signed by Francis Manapul. And he did this cool Crypto quick sketch in it for me, which I thought was really awesome.
Oh, wow.
He loved me some Crypto. So that was, I kind of forgot I had this, unfortunately, but I opened it. I'm like, oh, yeah, the Crypto sketch. So, and then there's just a cool draw. I mean, the art in this is just phenomenal. And it's Jeff Johns written. So, you're getting a good story there. But if you like Connor Kent's Teen Titans run, this one's kind of like a sleeper in terms of like Superboy coming back, and actually leads to your boy Jeff Lemire writing a Superboy series that ran until New 52 ruined everything for it. So, me and my local shop owner were talking. Because actually, I bought a little bit of a run of Superboy for $1 a piece because I had to have the DC logo variants that people love so much. And actually, I'm trying to, like you, it's funny, you collecting Saga, it's a great book. Me, I like to collect every version of Superboy #1 from 1994.
Nice.
But yeah, I luckily I found the DC Universe logo variant for $1. So I think all I need left now is the newsstand. Of all people, not to have that book, me, I know, right? But nonetheless, if you guys like this run of Superboy up until the Teen Titans, absolutely check out this run and the Jeff Lemire run after this concludes. So, yeah, I love me some Superboy, and that's just a good old. I mean, it's just nothing too insane happens in it, but you just kind of get his status quo, him living in Smallville and interacting with Lex Luthor and his family.
Nice. And those DCU, the barcodes, somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of those are like $20 books on eBay, regardless.
Yeah, I'm wondering
what issue it is.
I got to do some research because, like, my store, like, all of these but one was a DC logo variant I found.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so I found, and I left some out on the table too. I might just go pick the rest of them up on Sunday, but they were books I don't really normally collect. But I found Superboy #1 logo variant. This is the only non-logo variant I picked up, but it was first King Shark for $1. So I had this in the collection signed by Humberto Ramos, but I think my brother has my copy of it because I don't know where it's at. So I bought a new one for $1, and I got issue 12 DC logo variant, 13 logo variant, which actually I thought about talking about this book too. This is the Watery Grave storyline in Superboy. Not only do you get some phenomenal writing by Carl Kessel, Tom Grummett drew this, which one of my favorite 90s artists, Tom Grummett. Basically, Superboy has to create his own version of the Suicide Squad to go fight like a mafia that's based in Hawaii. So you get Captain Boomerang, King Shark, Knockout, Sidearm, and Deadshot. And it's a cool read for what this book is. I really remember enjoying this as a kid. I definitely plan on rereading that again very soon. There's part 2. Fortunately, I have to dig out my original copy of part 3. It's not a DC logo variant, but the one I found this week is. I just found some Justice Leagues. Issue 19 logo variant. Like I said, I don't know if these are probably worth like $1.25 instead of $1, but I found all these for $1. So I'm like, yeah, I keep getting them.
I would do some research. There's some videos floating around on YouTube. There are people that specifically hunt those DC logos. And if you look on eBay and search just the DC logo, I want to say they're depending on how important the issue is, obviously determines where it sits. But I think a lot of them are between $10 and $30 a pop.
Yeah, I kind of want to look up this one because unlike the rest of them, this one was actually like when they got lazy in the late run, they just threw a sticker on the barcode. So this is literally a sticker because they just stopped reprinting it just to put that logo on there. So instead of like doing the whole cover again, they just put a sticker on it and put it, because I don't know if too many people know the history of these things. Basically, the DC logo variants were put in like 3-packs, 5-packs, and/or 10-packs that were sold in like Walmart's and Toys R Us.
Yep, like way back in the day.
Barcodes because they were just in the multi-packs. So
and
that's
people
really awesome. Like I've never seen like a full, almost a half run of a book, all DC logo variants. Usually you only see one at a time because when you bought these packs, it would have literally been like one Justice League Task Force, one Superboy. They were never sold as like, here's Superboy 6 through 10. It was all just individual issues of runs.
You know, I bet you that shop owner got that from another collector that collected that run specifically in the DC logo.
Yeah, because almost everything on his shelf was DC Universe logos, and he didn't even know what they were. He never mentioned them, and I knew what they were. I'm like, let's go ahead and take those. So
yeah, I think you stumbled on a really nice find there, man.
I think so. Like I said, I might. There's a small con I'm going to tomorrow in the city. I might just walk down to the store and buy the rest of the dollar ones he had because there was probably at least like 10 more on the shelf.
And they all look like they're in pretty decent shape.
Oh yeah, they're not tore up, but I mean they're probably like 8.85s. I wouldn't put them in the. You could probably say 9s on a couple, but they definitely haven't been bagged and boarded since the 90s, but they haven't really been read or messed with. So
that's pretty up there considering those were shrunk wrapped and shipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not getting 9.8 candidates out of that book that's 20 some odd years old that shipped shrink wrapped super tight.
Like I feel like I bet there's kind of a holy grail based on some of the research I've done on those. I don't know if I've seen it actually exist or not, but it was sold in the same multi-pack style as the DC Universe variant. And that's Batman Adventures 12.
Yep.
Harley Quinn. Could you imagine like stumbling upon a DC Universe logo variant of that and how much that would just set that collecting world on fire for Harley Quinn?
Yeah, that would be. You could name your own price.
Yeah, you could
somebody out there will probably jump on it.
Edition. But I've never seen one. I think people have theorized it existed because, like I said, it was those same like 10 packs that contained those variants had some of the Batman Adventures 12s in them because obviously no one knew what that book was in the 90s. But I've always just wondered if there's logo variants of that floating around out there somewhere. I always thought about buying one of those multi-packs off eBay because some people still sell the multi-packs as those multi-packs.
Yeah, you can find them on eBay right now. I think a few months ago I was looking. I found 5 or 6 of them, but they're carrying a premium.
Yeah, that's why I haven't got one. But I thought about buying one of those and doing an unpackaging on my channel just for fun.
Oh, if you do one, I'll do one.
Nice. I'll have to look and. I think I threw it off on one way back when they wanted more than like $50 for them. Like most of these are going to be dollar books, so that's why it's such a huge gamble on those. But it would be fun to do that.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. And that brings me. I just realized a while ago, and it's sitting on a table back there. I bought a really good friend's old collection, and it's that entire run of Superboy. And Hawkman, Hawk World, a ton of DC stuff, and I bought it specifically because it's stuff I've never read and out of that 90s era, and they're all sitting there just waiting on me.
So I love me some Superboy. I mean, sure, it's extremely dated at this point, but for me, it's just mainly nostalgia and fun to read those again.
Yeah, Hawkman, Chris Barrett.
Hawkman?
And then there was a comment here I'm trying to find.
Wow.
Yeah, back to that chat. There was something in here I wanted to pull out too.
Yeah, Brandon Stowinski said he sold 100, or he had 115 Mark Jeweler inserts that he came across, and he sold half of them. That's pretty crazy.
Wow.
And then Centeri Stir Fry says, I think the DC code can still be found because nobody pulls the books all the way out if they're not on the Key Collector app. Yeah, you're probably not wrong. Yeah, Chris, I guess like. There's a little, I think instead of calling it a second print, I don't know if they stripped the cover off and printed a new cover and applied that or something. I think some people want to call them second prints, but other people's don't. But yeah, nonetheless, it's just an oddity. So therefore it's worth slightly more than the first print, which sometimes it's only worth the same because 9 out of 10 collectors out there don't really care about the DC Universe logo variant unless they're looking for it. So it's just kind of like anything else. You find the right collector and the right item, you get the right price. It's just like I think I always have to show this one oddity I have in my collection. It's that second print of Superman 50, like this one. I think I showed this on the last Modern that actually is the second print Superman 50 newsstand version that I got for 20 cents. Apparently, this is a ghost.
Really?
Yeah, so. Like this got the historic engagement issue on top. It's kind of like that the Batman first appearance of Tim Drake Robin. It says like first new Robin issue or something, but then like the newsstand barcodes, like they didn't do too many like newsstand second, third, fourth printings back in the day. So I think like this and that Batman book are highly sought after by like just crazy newsstand collectors out there that need everything. But I mean it's a hard book to price because no one knows about it. And like I said, it's not a book a lot of people look for, and it's not a book that's out there too often. The only other copy I've seen was from a Poor Man's Comics, and he's the one who let me know about it. So,
man, yeah, lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully, lots of good stuff that we'll be able to find in Baltimore here very shortly.
Oh, hope so. Well, I guess I'll do a lightning round for my last 3 books, and we'll talk a little bit about Baltimore, and we can go down the guest list and kind of figure out who you want to go see and who I want to go see. So I'll lightning around these last 3 so we get through them because it is about 9 o'clock, and then we want to cover Baltimore real quick too. So double shot of Brian K. Vaughan with Runaways. This is the hardcover for the first volume. Actually, this is one of the books I may be looking for at Baltimore. I'm still looking for first issue 1 of Runaways. Very good book. If you guys watch the Hulu series, it's not bad, but it is not near as good as the book, as they say, I guess. But nonetheless, you get these characters. They find out their parents are all supervillains. They have an evil supervillain society, and thus they run away. And the story goes from there. And I will actually kind of have a semi-spoiler here. One of the characters on this cover is a traitor. In the Hulu show, none of those characters have been traitors yet. So, super interesting. Next up, my one X-Men technically book I brought, X-Force, from the Craig Kyle, Chris Yost run. You get some phenomenal art in this run. Clayton Crane starts it, and Mike Choi is the fill-in artist, which he is another phenomenal artist. He did a lot of like Witchblade and that stuff back in the day in X-23. But this comes out of Messiah Complex, which I talked about the previous episode. Basically, Cyclops puts together X-Force as a result of what happened to Messiah Complex. They had all these organizations and teams after him, and he tells Wolverine to go out and make a team to eliminate those threats before they become threats. So a lot of bad things happen to X-Force. Basically, he's Cyclops. He creates X-Force as well because the things he's going to ask Wolverine and his team to do, he does not want on the X-Men name. So basically, he doesn't want them going out and killing in the name of mutants. He just wants them to go out and be X-Force, this covert ops team. And there's like by the end of this run, actually kind of leads the X-Men schism, in my opinion, eventually, because Wolverine is so bitter and mad at Cyclops by the end of this because basically he asked X-23 to be on the team, and the things that X-23 has to do to be a part of X-Force really makes Wolverine mad. Basically, like when I got this book signed, which I got signed by all 3 of the creators there, I think it was Craig Kyle was just like, you don't want to be on X-Force. If you're on X-Force, you're screwed. So basically, they get their asses kicked. I think characters get killed off. Very good read if you guys haven't read it. And my last one, definitely had to throw this out there because the series is coming, debuting this Sunday. Batwoman Elegy. I think for that CW series, this is going to be the source material right here. It's written by Greg Rucka. Phenomenal art by J.H. Williams III. If you guys are halfway interested or end up liking that Batwoman show, seek out this hardcover, the trade, what have you. Basically, it's just when Batwoman took over Detective Comics, she ends up meeting her sister, who's kind of like her version of the Joker, basically. And then also you get her backstory where you get to see her dishonorably discharged for being gay in the military. And her father is also in the military. Basically ends up being her Alfred after a while once she reveals to him she's Batwoman. So a lot of great Batwoman stuff in this book. And I apologize, I might have said Batgirl previously. I meant Batwoman. So a lot of people are talking about Batgirl in the chat, which I probably just confused them. So definitely check this book out. Also have to point out, got it signed by Greg Rucka. So he was really cool. All right. So there are my picks for tonight. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and bring up the old Baltimore list. And Andy, I heard you might have got a sketchbook going, ready to go for Baltimore.
I took your advice, man. I did a little research. I found one. They're very reasonably priced, people. And this is, I think, is an extremely underutilized part of cons. You're really onto something, dude. Yeah, you can walk around and check out a lot of the artists, and you can buy what they have there that's available, and I definitely want to do that too. But being able to have a sketchbook and have personalized sketches, so a 3-day con or 2-day con, and get maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sketches for pretty inexpensively, depending on what you're looking for and what artist you're looking for. And it's like a travel map. It's like after 20, 30 years of doing this, Carson's going to look back at this and he's going to have amazing memories to share with a lot of his friends that he went to these cons with. Dude, being able to relive that experience. Yeah, like I think I spent $18 and I got one of the higher rated 60 weight page, like nice. Recommended for watercolors, all the dry inks, and everything basically. Because you were talked about page quality being a thing. So I made sure to get something that could do watercolors or anything, because it's artists. If you want to, in my opinion, if you want to get the artist at their best, I'm not going to ask for something specific. I'm be like, hey, I love your artwork, man. What do you feel like doing? Here's my book. How much do you want? I'm going to say, I'm a fan of this, and this. Are you interested? What do you got going on? And I want to see what they're going to surprise me with. That's what I really want to experience.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm just kind of going over the list here. So on the, I haven't looked at the artist out. I'm just looking at the special guest list. I'm seeing the name Daryl Banks on there. He'll do some good stuff for you in your sketchbook. I think he usually runs about $80 to $100, but he does full body. He did my Kyle Rayner in my book I showed off last night. And then Barry Kitson's on here too. I don't know what he charges anymore, but way back when he would just do free sketches just because he liked to create a buzz and a line around his booth. So he was a pretty cool guy to talk to, and he does like full body, full color and everything. So he's a lot of fun. For me, I wouldn't mind trying to get something quick and simple from Walt Simonson. I do not have anything Walt Simonson in the book, so it'd be cool to maybe at least get a quick Thor or something from him. Brett Breeding, I wouldn't mind seeing what he could do for my book. He's a inker for Dan Jurgens during at Superman runs, so definitely have fond memories of reading their work when I was a kid, so I wouldn't mind meeting Brett Breeding. Joe Statton's going to be there. He did a nice cover for me at C2E2. I didn't have my book on me, so I just gave him a Green Lantern blank cover, and he gave me a nice Hal Jordan on that, which is exactly what I wanted. Let's see who else is on here. You got Jeff Lemire. We're definitely going to bucket list Jeff Lemire, meet him. Ty Templeton. If you can get Ty Templeton early, get Ty Templeton. I think he's the best value. You get full body, full collar for like under $100, and it looks like freaking Bruce Timm from the Batman animated series style. It's some great stuff there. So those would probably be my affordable recommendations. Like I said. Oh, and then Mike Perkins is on here too. Mike Perkins, he's always friendly, does some good stuff. I might take a sketch cover for him maybe, because I already got like a quick sketch in my book. I wouldn't mind having something nicer from him. But the quick sketch, I just met him in the Marvel booth. We were talking about Trash Can Man from The Stand, because he was the artist on The Stand at the time because Marvel was adapting the Stephen King stuff. And he just drew me a Trash Can Man out of the nicest of his heart. So, yeah, those are my quick recommendations.
I think being a mega Punisher fan that I am, I think I'm going to have to find somebody that has ties to Punisher, or somebody that's done some really cool Punisher work that I can see there on the floor, and maybe open up that sketchbook with that. I think that'd be a really cool thing.
That'd be cool. And at least get Garth Ennis to sign like the inside or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I just noticed that he's going to be there Friday and Saturday. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, you're definitely.
Oh, he's coming back to Punisher too.
Is he? Nice.
Yep. So that last run of Punisher just ended with number 16, I think. And I'm not sure when they're bringing Punisher back, but obviously it's going to be soon if they're talking about it. They announced that Garth Ennis is going to be coming back with that. So I'm really excited for that too.
Nice.
I'm excited for everything. Oh, my God.
I know. Yeah. So is this going to be like your first major con?
Yeah, I've only been to cons out in Detroit. I went to one at Cobo Center years ago that was a bit smaller. Detroit Comic Con was the biggest one I went to, and Jim Lee was the big headliner there. And just looking at this guest list has my head spinning. I've never. That place has got to be massive to fit this many people in there and all these tables.
Yeah, this is my first Baltimore, so I'd imagine it's going to be pretty sizable. But, yeah, just remember, you're not going to get everything you want, but you're going to get a lot of good stuff. Especially, like, you're starting off going to cons, like, trying to get every signature and sketch and meet everyone you want to, and friends included. It's pretty impossible, but you'll still have a great time and get some really cool stuff out of it.
For me, this trip for me is really about the community.
Yeah.
I never wanted a YouTube channel, never considered myself to be a content creator, but when I saw this community on here, I wanted to be a part of it. You know, I still don't even really consider myself a content creator or anything. My channel's only got like 7 or 8 videos, but I want to continue being a part of this community and play a role in it and not miss out on all this great stuff. So I'm driving out there. I know Friday I'm meeting up with a lot of people from Simpleman's Comics family. And our Discord chat from the Patreon group, we're meeting up for dinner Friday night. Saturday, we're planning on meeting up with a lot of you guys and hanging out. Sunday's going to be a rough day.
Yeah, we'll see who survives to Sunday.
right? And I think I'm probably leaving. Like if everybody starts bailing early Sunday, I've got a 10-hour drive home. So at some point, I'm gonna leave when everything starts slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like at C2E2, almost 2/3 of the group checked out at 2 p.m. Saturday and didn't really recover. I mean, I was like, so our goal for this one is to sleep. Like I just didn't sleep. Oh, I probably slept a decent amount compared to some of these other people. Oh, see, there he is. There's Kamakura Chad says, I will survive. I hope so, man.
Yeah, there's Scott, Michigan Comic Con and Motor City Comic Con. Those are the only two cons I've ever been to. Besides, there's a Lansing, Michigan. There's a small con there that I go to, and there's a Grand Rapids, not too far from there. I've been to that small con as well. So this will be my first big one.
Nice. Yeah, I was joking with Kat last night. She's under the weather. Hopefully, she feels better soon. But I was kind of joking with her, like, I'm glad you're getting sick now, so that way you get your immune system boosted up for Baltimore, so we don't have a repeat of C2E2 and the George Perez incident. Because, yeah, like I said, there was a sad-looking group of people eating some of the worst pizza I've ever tasted at C2E2. Never get the food on the con floor. If there's good food on the con floor, let me know what con that is. I'll probably make the special trip because, C2E2, you have to venture away from the side of the con.
You can pack stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, you can't bring weapons in.
No,
but they're not gonna turn you away at the door if you've got a bottle of pop or if you've got snacks in your bag. Yeah, because con floor. Yeah, I haven't been to many cons, but the food's terrible.
Yeah, it's way overpriced. So yeah, we'll probably pack some granola bars or something.
Yeah, bring some energy. I've got a nice little backpack that'll fit two of those BCW magazine.
Cool.
Flip carriers. I like the big magazine ones because you can. If you find a magazine or you find something, you can fit it in there pretty well. But yeah, Carter, Andy, brush that beard for me, will you? So now I'm gonna have to be on every episode for at least a beard brushing event, so you guys can catalog and see the progress over the winter.
Nice. Yeah, I'll probably grow my vacation beard out, then trim it on Friday like last time. So, but other than that, we've been going for over an hour. Any final thoughts for Modern Men Episode 2?
Oh, man. Buy what you love, and you'll love what you buy.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said that any better. Yeah, sometimes at the end of the day, it's not about slabbing the stuff or getting them keys. Sometimes it's just about buying Superboy, the Boy of Steel, and enjoying your favorite character. So I guess with all that being said, I think we're done here. Anything else, Andy?
Peace out.
All right.
Pinky's out.
Pinky thing,
I'll catch y'all on the flip side, baby.
All right. Well, where's Chad's gimmick here? Man, I'm really screwing up the